Hey, how's it going? I'm your DJ X.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon or morning, depending on where you're joining us from. Yeah, we're good to go. 1 second, please. Okay, we're just going to get into it. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Good to have you here with us. Cool. We're 5 minutes behind time. You can just share feedback if you joined the session last week. How was it for you? We tried to get feedback in the emails that we sent, and we put some of the feedback in that email. But if you just want to use the chat to share what you learned, how useful it was for you, please do share with everyone in the chat now. If there was one specific thing you learned or multiple things. I'm just going to quickly highlight. So last week we had a few folks that shared. No, we had Toby walk us through how to build a dashboard, right? So and we had like we sent out a questionnaire, a survey for people to share their visits with us. And I just wanted to quickly spotlight a few people that had done that. Thanks to Nizoma Ndazaga, he or she, I'm not sure, was able to follow through and recreate what we did in class. It's amazing that you're able to do this. Thank you so much. And just looking forward to how you continue to grow. I think this is your first viz. Actually, yeah, first viz, and this is what you're able to do. So I would recommend, if you didn't watch the sessions, please do try and follow on from this. This is one person. This is also another person, Oluwadamilola Obayomi. Well done. Thanks for sharing this with us. We also have Samuel Oluwajobi. Can you see my screen? I'm saying I can't hear you. Can everyone hear me? Okay, yes, you can hear. Awesome. So Samuel Oluwajobi, there's also Samuel Adekoya. So they were able to do all of this. So well done, well done, well done, well done, well done. Just wanted to say well done. Today we're going to go into John. John is going to take us through basic visualizations in Tableau. He would introduce himself, and then we'll continue from there. Let me see. Is there anyone breaking? I can see, you can hear me, you can hear me. Okay, I'll just try and attend to that in the comments, but okay, John, over to you. John will take us for the next 15 minutes or so on basic visualizations in Tableau. Then after that, I'm going to be leading a session on filters. So everything you need to know about filters in Tableau. Yeah, so over to you, John.
Hi, hi, Harvey. Sorry, do I turn my video on, or it's fine itself?
You can turn it on if you want.
Okay, so apparently I think you already stopped it. So I'm trying to turn it on now, but it says you also have stopped. Yeah.
That is I will try and fix that.
Okay, that's fine. No, that's fine. Yeah, anyways, hi guys. I see it's 97 participants, but that's a lot. Impressive. So yeah, hi guys. Hopefully Abby fixes the video stuff so you guys can see me. But I mean, without waiting for I can just go ahead and start. Yeah, my name is John Analo, and currently I work as a as a data analyst at a company called Eden Life. I don't know if anyone knows Eden Life here. So I've been there for going on almost 2 years now, right? And then our tool of choice for creating data visuals is Tableau. So I have quite some experience in creating some stuff on Tableau there. So actually, let me share my screen. Just give me a second. Share my second. Okay, yeah. So guys, I plan for this to be like a hands-on class. I want to make sure you guys can follow through what I try to create. If I go too fast or I'm talking too fast, because I tend to do that sometimes, please just stop me or just call my attention in the chats, so I can like go over what I've just said. But yeah, I mean, but it should be a really simple class. What we want to do today is just look at the pretty much like the basic building blocks of like visuals and Tableau, right? So we want to like learn how to use things we're already familiar with: bar charts, pie chart, tree maps, bubble charts. But then more importantly, we want to know when to use these things, right? So for the most part, to create like really engaging visuals, like it goes beyond just like putting like elements on the dashboard. You have to know what chart style is the right one to utilize for certain kinds of visualization, right? And knowing when to use this and when not to use them also. So I think that's really important. So for each chart type or style that we look at, we'll just go over like how to create them on Tableau, and also look at things like when not to use it and when we should use them, right? So I think that's pretty much what we want to do, like for all of the different chart types. So I can start now. Um, if you're trying to follow through on this class, I'm going to just share the data set I'm using. Just give me a second, I'll paste that in the chat now. So I'm using, obviously I'm using the global superstore data, but then focus in this class is just on the orders, on the orders table, right? So I'm going to post this on the chat now so you guys can like follow through on that. So what you can do is I mean, if you want to make a copy, that's fine. But then, because I gave everyone access, please do not edit it. I advise that you just connect to the data source itself or create your own copy for yourself, right? So yeah. So what I would do is I'm going to open my Tableau public now. By the way, I want to believe that we all have Tableau public already installed on our computers. So you can follow through on this. Okay, so yeah, taking that as a sign that yes, you guys already have that. Okay, awesome, you do. All right. So I have this open here. So you guys, can you guys, sorry, can you guys see my screen first? So I'm sharing my screen now. Oh, awesome. Okay, cool. So now I have Tableau Public open here. Should try to start to the side. So this data set, it's a CSV file. So like, I mean, there are two ways that I can go about connecting to this data set, right? So I have it on my drive, so I can decide to use my Google Drive and connect to it. But then for just so we do the same things, right? So what I would advise is you guys go and download this. So what you want to do is you want to come to file here and go to download CSV. Sorry, so when you do that, right, so like this, it downloads the CSV file onto your own local device, right, that you can now utilize. So I just downloaded that now. And then next, I will try to connect to that data that set here. So on Tableau, to connect to CSV files, you use the text file connector here, right? So I'm going to select text file, and I'll select the global superstore orders that I just downloaded now, right? And then I'll open this. So I understand that in the last class you guys already had an intro to Tableau, so like you're sort of familiar now with where the different elements on Tableau are. So for example, you know this is where you see your data sources, and then you have the logical layer here that if you want to, you can create between tables, you can create relationships between tables. If you want to, you can also like get a sneak peek of your data like at the bottom here. So you can see, and usually the first thing I advise like newbies is that the first thing you want to do when you have like data to work with, you want to go over like its contents, right? Try to understand what you have there. See, because this already gives you an inspiration for what you want to. For example, you might discover that you might have to some clearly or some prep your data, right, by going through it. Maybe you have some values that are not formatted properly, or you have some words that are not spelled correctly, right? So you know from like going through like data source. So let's do that also. So again, we have the others table from the global superstore database, data set rather. So what you have is you have each row corresponds to an order, right? So say somebody buys something, for example, right? You have the order ID, the order date, the date it was shipped, the shipping mode, who bought that stuff, that's the customer ID now, and then you have the customer name. For that particular item the person bought, what segments like does that item fall under? That's the segment. You know, the city that the order's coming from, state, the country, postal code, market, region, the product ID. So this is also supposed to be unique for each product. The category of that product, subcategory, and the name of the product itself, right? And then you know how much was spent on that order, how many items was bought for that order. If there was a discount applied to the order, you have that year. If there was a profit made, the shipping cost and the order priority, right? So that's all you have here, right? So each row corresponds to an order, right? And then so every entry there is equal to a customer buying something from Superstore as a business, right? So I guess now we have a very, very strong idea of what we have here, so we can proceed to like creating our charts now. So what you want to do at this point is you want to go to the sheets. Can you guys see the sheet icon here, right? So you go to worksheet, right? So the way Tableau works is that like you have in a sense you have three elements to like work with. So you can create worksheets, right? So if you've used Power BI before, so the way Power BI works is that Power BI allows you to create dashboards immediately. So you can create different chart styles or types, right, on one like page, right? For Tableau, right, what you have to do is you have to create the different charts on individual worksheets. Then you can decide to combine those worksheets on a dashboard or on a storyboard, right? So what we'll do here is we'll create each chart on a worksheet, right? Okay. So now we can start now. So at the left pane here, you can see all of the columns of fields from a data set. That's what you already have here. Those other IDs, categories, everything you have in data source here, right? So you can see them on this left pane here. Sorry, give me a second. Yeah, you can see everything here, right? For this class, our focus is going to be on the show me pane here, right? And then this marks card, because like they are, in my opinion, like probably the most important like bits to understand when creating like charts within Tableau, right? Alternatively, sometimes we would maybe like delve into some of the things here, like some of the things here, like if I want to adjust or swap rows and columns of the charts, I would occasionally come here. But for the most part, we're focusing on this and this, right? So one cool thing that Tableau does, so I know people have said that Tableau has maybe a steeper learning curve, and I understand for the most part, right? But then for creating like basic charts, right? Like yeah, it's really easy, right? Because Tableau already has like like a way that you can create these things very easily. So for example, on this show me card here, I want you guys to look at this, like this down values down here. So for each chart type, right, Tableau already tells you what you need to have to create that chart type. For example, now I want you guys to look here, focus on this part here, right? So if I say I want to create a bar chart, for example, now, right? So it says that you need what 0 or more dimensions and 1 or more measures. What that means basically is that pretty much if you have just one measure, you can create like a bar chart, right? You don't need to have a dimension, right? But then if you have a dimension and a measure, you can also create a bar chart, right? So for like most of the types that we create today, would be like using this as a guide, right? Just look at this place here. So for maybe as a quick recap for people that don't know what the dimension means. So you can think of the dimension as like a categorical like variable, things that are that allow you qualify your data set. So for example, now maybe like your region, states, customer name, right? And then you can think of measures as like numeric values, things that you can perform mathematical operations on, like average, sum, count, and the likes, right? So what Tableau does is you notice that there's a split in our fields here, right? So everything at the top here from this line with the blue color, right, are things that in a sense you can use to like create dimensions, right? And for the green ones, yeah, so maybe you can't see it very clearly, right? But then the ones down here are green. And so these are the measures here that you can use. So you can see things like discounts, profit, sales, shipping costs, right? So first, for our first bar chart, right, we try to create a regular bar chart here. So what do we need? We need one measure on at least one measure. Maybe if you want to carry dimension, right? So what I'll do is, so what you can do is, so I'm using a Windows. So I'm going to like press, so let's use sales, for example. I'll press control, and I'll click on sales. If you're in a Mac, you can press command and click on sales. And then I'll click on any dimension I want to use. So in my case now, I would say I want to use, just give me a second. What do we have here? Okay, let's use, I guess category works. And then having clicked these two elements, by the way, I'm still clicking on control right. I can now select the chart here. And then once I do that now, I have like my first very simple bar chart, right? I'm going to extend this guy to take up the full space of my canvas. And then I would sort it using this icon here, the sort icon here that you can see. So I want to sort by descending order. And then I'll select that. Right, so now I have pretty much across all of the periods that we have data for, I can see how each category compares to themselves, right, on the bar chart. And so one more thing I want to do is I want to add the so now I can see that technology is the highest one. Then I can see how much like we made from technology, right? So I'll just drag sum of sales here. So I'll hold control and drag sum of sales here to the label here. So that way I can now see like how much of like technological items and furniture and of supplies that we sold for our data period, right? Alternatively, I can decide to use maybe like the subcategory here. I'll drag this down here also, and also I'll sort again for each of them. So we have this, right? So this is just a simple regular bar chart, right? So you guys will notice that I was to like make the labels sure I had to drag some of sales to this label feed here, right? So here you have your max card. Your max card, in essence, allows you modify and make adjustments to your charts, right? So for example, I can change the color or the size of my bar charts here if I want to, right? I can also, it's so small, make it a little bit bigger. I can decide, you know what, I want the color to, I want to change the colors. For example, maybe I want to use a greenish color. I can just do this. You can also add tooltips. Tooltips is what you see when you, for example, you can see I'm on the fonts bar now. You can see this thing here, subcategory and sales, right? So on tooltips, right, you can adjust what shows up. And for everything you adjust, right, you can preview it to make sure it's showing as you want. For example, now I can say, you know what, I don't want to have subcategory showing or even the sales, just show me the values themselves, right? And then I can preview that and see it just shows me accessories and then the amount that we sold for that particular subcategory. And so I have that there also. So again, you show me to select your chart type, chart style, and then use your max card to modify and adjust the charts, right? I think that's clear. At this point, I'm going to look through the charts and just see if there are any questions there. Oh, I'm fast. Interesting. I'm sorry about that. Okay, sorry guys. So actually, I'm going to ask, do you guys want me to go over bar chart again? Or are we fine? Okay, sorry, why should you have in Namaka?
I'll respond to Namaka. I think she's having an issue accessing the data sets, but it seems to be unique to her alone.
I see. Okay. Oh, sorry. Apparently, some of them that have it. Okay, cool. So anyway, so I guess the context is that people are fine. So yeah, people are fine. So I can, but I'll take time to come slower, like for subsequent ones. Don't worry. Unable to download it. Oh, okay. I mean, so what you guys can do alternatively is you can create a copy of that and just connect to your drive if you want to go that route rather. So I have a regular bar chart here. I'm just going to save name the worksheets because again, we would create multiple worksheets now. So we want to know what we've created in each worksheets. So usually I recommend like you use like a very descriptive naming convention.
Sorry, John, can you just quick one? Can you show on your screen how to
download data.
how to make the copy of the because it looks like some people You all you need to do is go to file.
Yeah. So just go to file and then you can make a copy here. Right. So go to file and make a copy, right? So then what that allows you can create you can name yourself. So for example, I can say John I think global superstar, and then I'll make a copy of this guy. Right. So now I have a copy. So actually, so I'll show you guys how to connect to your drive folder. Maybe that helps, right? That's if you can't download it. So I imagine that download issue might be coming from the size of the file because it's quite a number of rows that you have there, about 50K rows, right? So what you can do now, so now you have a copy of the data for yourself, right? It's on your local drive, right? So what I will do now is this. Look at this. Watch this. So back to Tableau again. Where is Tableau? What's my Tableau? Yeah. So I can go to new data source, right? Then I would select, can you see Google Drive here? So I'll select Google Drive. But then now I have to basically you need to have internet connection for this, right? Because you have to connect to the internet. So once you have that, you have to sign into your to the account that has that file. So for example, now I have several emails, but I'm on this particular one here, right? So that means I have to sign in with this one here. Right? So just make sure you're doing that. And then I allow Tableau permission to access files from my drive. So once I've done that, a window pops up on Tableau here that you can see basically all the contents of my drive, right? For the ones we have different file types on my drive, right? You only can connect to maybe Google Sheets, CSV, or Excel files. For example, you can connect to a PDF file Tableau, right? From this here. That's why it's grayed out. So I can just search for my file and I call it John global something. This search. No, I just spell it this way. Equal spots space like this. Okay. Yeah, I have a lot of files here, so I'm not going to go over each one. So global superstar. So yeah, I have the file here, global superstar, my drive here. Right, so I'll click on that file and then I'll connect to it. But I mean, I personally, I feel like this is even like more stressful, to be honest, right? I advise that you just download the file. But I can understand that you're struggling to download maybe due to like the kind of computer you're using. Maybe it's not as fast, right? Because the data is actually a lot. But anyways, if you do that, you can also access data here, right? But yeah, so make a copy and just like connect to the drive folder. Personal advice is just download data as it says before and connect to it easily. That way you don't need an internet connection to access it. Right. So yeah. Just like to are we good now? Mark's not downloading. Cargo.
If you've been able to download it, can you reply yes in the comment in the chat box? If you've been able to download it, can you reply yes?
Okay.
Okay, so we have some people that have downloaded it. Okay, so
yeah.
I think I'll try and support the other people that haven't downloaded it in the chat. Another option is I would share the link that we used last week. I think the data set in that is a bit smaller.
Okay.
So we focus more on the concepts than specific
exactly.
Yeah.
That works. Awesome.
All right.
Awesome. All right, so I'm very sorry about that, guys. But like, so just try and follow through what we are saying, right? And then honestly, you don't have to follow through what we're doing exactly now. Just pay attention so you can practice by yourself when you're done. So I want to delete this guy now. Okay, it's fine. Okay, so cool. So we have our first chart. That's the regular bar chart, right? So there are other ways or variants of like making bar charts, right? So we can make a stacked bar chart, for example, right? And also like a side by side bar chart, right? So now let's look at the stacked bar charts, right? Again, if you go and show me, right, you can see what you need to create a stacked bar chart. So what you need is just one dimension, at least one dimension and one measure. You can see that here. So I'm looking at this place here, right? So just focus your attention here. So if I go on a stacked bar chart, right, you can see I need one dimension at least and one measure. So a good way to utilize a stacked bar chart would be to say, for example, I want to create a bar chart of our sales per year, right? But then I want to see how each region compares to themselves on a yearly basis, right? So let me show what that looks like right now. So now I'll select order dates because that's where I have for each order, I have values in order dates. I'll select order dates. I'm holding control. I'll select sales and I'll select the region, right? So now you see what you do when you click on this guy, right? Show me already by default. It shows you the kind of chart that you can create from what you've selected, right? For example, like the ones that are sort of prominent are what you can create from what you've selected, right? The ones that are grayed out are what you cannot create still. So in our case, we want the stack bar chart, which is this guy here. So I'll select this, right? And I'll make this an entire view. So now what you can see here is quite interesting, right? So you can see for each year, you can see that we have like our sales and it's been growing, right? But then for each of those years, you can see how each region compares to themselves. For example, it's clear that our central region for each year is the biggest chunk by region of our sales, right? And for the smallest one is this very tiny guy that you can see really here. It's Canada, yeah, right? So now we have a stacked bar chart. I can decide to like play around with colors and the labels if I want to. But imagine if I do that, like it gets clumsy and like gets like it doesn't look as good again. But let's try. So I can hold region on my max card and then drag region. So I'm pressing control. I'm dragging region to label, right? So that way you can see like the regions like very easily, right? But again, for values like Canada that's very small, you can't really see them. So maybe you just want to remove that and allow your user utilize the legend that you already have here. So here's the thing, right? So I mean, personally, like this is my preference here, right? But then if you want to do this, that's if you want to not label your bars, you must have a legend here so that person that is looking at it can tell, oh, this color represents, for example, central, and then maybe this grayish color represents the west. Like, so it's very important that you have that there, so you can choose to do that one. If I want to remove the legend, then I have to label the bars so that people can see it, right? So yeah, now I have stacked bar charts. Now I've stacked bar charts, right? So and then for the next one, I want to create I want to actually let me check, see if everyone is following now. Okay. All right. Okay. Awesome. 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 What were the three things I picked from my stack bar chart? So I picked the So actually, if you look at my canvas, you can see what I picked, right? So you can see that I have my year, that's order dates, the sales and region. So I'll do that again. I'll clear my charts, right? Again, I have my order dates as the first value. Then my sales. I'm holding control, by the way. Control sales. I'm still holding control. And then I'll click on region. So those are three things I'm using for my stack bar chart, right? Then I go to show me and I select the stack bars here as an option, right? And then I just make this guy occupy the entire like width and length of my chart. So I believe that's clear now, right? Yeah, so that's what I'm doing, right? And then I have my stack bar chart like that. I can decide to just even drag some of those as my values. So for each, instead of seeing the region as the label for each, I guess like segment, I can say I want to actually see the sum of sales for each. But anyways, it looks really, really clumsy. I wouldn't advise this, to be honest, right? So what for your user, right, they can always like go on each of the bars and then see the values from your tooltips. Again, you guys remember that we have these tooltips here. And we can adjust by ourselves if you want to, right? So yeah, so they can do that by themselves. So yeah, we have a stack bar chart now. So another one that so I'm trying. There's a lot to cover. I'm trying not to go too fast. So it's quite interesting, right? So the next one is let's try and look at the something that we call what's it called now? It's called a side by side bar chart, right? So, for example, now in this case, now I'll give you a very good example of where you can use this now. So imagine, for example, I wanted to see just like this, right? I wanted to see sales by for each year, right? But then I wanted to see that sales for each category. Imagine I wanted to see that, right? So let me show you what that looks like, right? So I'll name this guy. So name my to name my workbooks, I'm just clicking on the sheet name. So that's one. Or I can just right click on the sheet name and click on rename also. And I'll call this side by side bar chart. Right. So for this one, again, by the way, you guys can see that I don't have anything memorized at all. For each chart style, I'm going to show me to tell me how to create them. Right. So again, I go on so look at the side by side bars here, right? So it says here for this one, look at this now. It says you need one or more dimension and one or more measure. That's one or more categorical field like region, customer name, whatever, right? And one more measure, that's numerical fields. That's what measure means. But then it says, it says you require at least 3 fields. So again, like you need at least 3 fields to create a side by side bar chart, right? So now in my case now again, because I said I wanted to visualize sales per year for each category, right? So what I can then do is this, right? I'll select my order dates, right? I'm holding control. I'll select sales and I'll select category. And then now you see that I am allowed to select side by side bar chart. Then I'll click on this guy. And again, I'll allow this guy to occupy the length and breadth of my entire view. So one thing I don't really like here is I don't really like the colors. So the cool thing is that Tableau allows you pretty much decide how you want to play around with colors, right? So I think these are too colorful, and they don't appeal to me that much. So what I'll do is on my max card, that's this guy here, I can go to color, right? By the way, my color is taking the form of the year. So what you notice is that each year represents a different color. You can see that on the legend there. 2011 is blue, 2012 is orange. It's orange, right? 2013 is red, and 2014 is green, right? So what I'll do is I'll go to colors here, and I'll choose to edit my colors. So I just select this guy and then edit colors. Now I can do 2 things here, right? One is I can select each of the years and decide which color I want them to be, like this. For example, I'll select 2012 now and say I want to be this green color, right? Or I can change my palette. I don't know how to pronounce really, right? So what I'll do is I'll come here and say, you know what? Give me this CR2 grays. I believe that by default we should have this one here. So I'll select CR2 grays, and I would click on assign palette here, and I would apply. Right. So I feel like this looks more pleasing on the eye for me, right? And yeah. So now I can now drag my sum of sales to the label, right? And yeah, I can see like for each of the categories, right? Furniture, office supplies, and technology, I can see how much you made for each year, right? So again, let me take a look at the charts to see what you guys are saying. Oh, okay, my voice went low. Sorry, guys. Can you guys hear me now? Please confirm that you can hear me now.
Yes, it's back up now. It came back
Awesome.
like within a minute. It's back up.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm sorry about that, guys. Very sorry about that. But I mean, for the most part, I believe you guys got the gist of the side by side bar chart, right? Okay, cool, awesome. So yeah, now I have the side by side bar chart now. So one more type of bar chart that I want us to create here is let's try to create it's something called a bar in bar chart. And this is really useful if you're trying to compare values against, for example, a target. Say for example now, or I wanted to compare value of sales, say for example, with the previous year, right? So I'll do the comparison on a yearly basis because I don't have a target like table here. Otherwise, that would have been a very good use of a buy in bar chart, right? So this one, the cool thing here is that you see, whilst Tableau allows you create all of these I guess chart types here, you are pretty much limited by your own creativity in Tableau, right? So Tableau it works like a canvas. You can create whatever you want to create, right? So what you notice is that we don't actually have a custom bind bar chart here. Sorry, our native one. We have to create it ourselves, but we are using our creativity, right? So, and I wanted to show this. So I wanted to show you so that you know that you are not limited to what you have here. You can actually go beyond what you have here to create some very interesting chart styles. And I'm sure you've gone over the, I guess, the public account of some of the tutors of this program, and you see that people have done some very, very interesting like work on Tableau, right? Using some very interesting like chart types and styles, right? So I'll just introduce you guys to a way that we can extend Tableau's functionality beyond what we are allowed to create by ourselves or by default, right? So now what I want to do is this here. I want to visualize like my data like across like, for example, now categories, right? So let me just show you what I want to do now. So I have a category like this now, and then no, let me subcategory. That has more elements, I guess. So I have subcategory here. I'm gonna take this guy out. Sorry. And then I want to see, I guess, maybe it's even profit, right? So there's negative value here. So yeah, I don't want to do this actually. Let me just use sales instead. And I want to swap these guys like this and then visualize it. So now I have like I have my subcategories, right? By how much I've sold for the last 4 years, right? But now I want to compare, for example, now using these phones, right, as a subcategory. I want to see how much I sold this year as the current year versus the previous year as a buying bar chart, right? So that's what I'm trying to achieve now. So what I can do here is this, right? I can first I'll drag my order date to the filter, right? I'll go to again. Let me show that again. I'm dragging order dates to the filters, right? I'm going to click on years here. Then I'll select next. Then I want to just use the last 2 years, 2013 and 2014. Right, let me show that again. So other dates, I will drag this guy to the filter spin, right? Click on years, and then I would select 2013 and 2014, right? And then I'll click on OK. So now I can now then drag years, right, to my color, right? So just watch closely, right? Then I'll click on control, drag it. So I'm clicking on control so I don't remove this guy from the filter pin. That's why I'm clicking on control, right? Otherwise, I can just drag years from my other here also. So I'll drag a years to my color here like this. Right now, so you guys notice that I have, I guess, like I have a bar chart that is sort of grouped by the year 13 and 14. Right, but it's currently stacked. That's the problem. It's currently stacked, right? I don't want it to be stacked. I'll show what I mean by stacked. If I click on each one right now, you can see that it only occupies for example, now 2013 only occupies this width here, and then 2014 only occupies the other width here. So what I will do now is I'll go to at the top of my pane really, right? I'm going to click on analysis, right? There's a option there called stack marks that is on automatically, right? I want to turn that guy off. So I've turned it off right now, right? Now what you notice, what's different now is that right now, 2013 and 2014, they're no longer stacked again. They're just by themselves, right? So if I can show what that looks like now. So if I click on 2014, for example, you can see that it occupies everything here. And then 2013 occupies like just this length here right now. So it's no longer stacked again. Now I can then drag again this same year of order date. I'll click on control and drag this to the size of my bar on the max card here. Right. And then I'll come to see what happens when I drag size year to size, right? Just watch this place here. So I'll click on yes, I'm holding control by the way. I'll drag this to size. And here I can now edit the sizes. For example, and this guy is still too small. I want to make it bigger a little bit. So I just drag this down here a little bit and I would apply. Yeah, let's a little bit more. just like this. Now, so what you can see now here is this is that for funds, right? For the buying side, that's 2013, right? You can see that we sold 453,519,000 in 2013, and in 2014 we sold 552,006. That means we actually grew that particular subcategory. In fact, we grew also subcategories, but by different I guess portions, right? So for example, now we had very strong growth year on year on the copiers category because why? We had much more sales in 2014 than we had in 2013, right? But then for values like, for example, labels, we didn't grow that much, or even envelopes, right? So you can see like what this tells you now. So you see now we've pretty much extended Tableau's capacity beyond what we have with Show Me here. You wouldn't find the buying bar chart on your Show Me here, right? So just have feedback recommend that you can extend like what you can create with just the basics out on Tableau, right? Pretty much you have no limits what you can create, right? So I'll name this guy and call this guy bar in charts, right? So again, I look at the comments to see what people are saying. How did I unstack it? Okay, awesome, good question, right? So how did I unstack it? I'll just do that again. I'm going to clear this guy again very quickly. So again, I have my words, I have my subcategory, sorry, subcategory, and I have my sales, right? As a bar chart, I'll swap column and rows together, and then I'll make this descend in order. So I'll let you guys already know how to do this ones here, right? Then for my other dates, I'll drag it to my filter, choose years, and then select 2013 and 14. Right. After this is done, I'll drag my year of other dates to the colors pane, and I have this currently stacked, right? So how do I unstack? That's the question you asked me. So I'll go on analysis here, go on stack marks. It's turned on by default, and I'll put it off. That's how I unstack. Then I can now drag here to size and adjust the size. Very simple, right? So that's all I've done. I've done really. Then adjust the size so that they are closer to themselves. Yeah, that's what I did, right? So I think it's clear now. Yeah, it has information in it. Yeah, I agree. Sorry about that. Okay. When I do some of my graph changes, I don't fully understand that. All right, cool. So I'll keep going. All right, awesome. So now we've done like a lot about bar charts, right? So now let's try and change this up a little bit. Let's look at other chart styles that we have, right? So now let's look at a pie chart, right? So see me, I forgot that I had the slide to present. So I'll share this. I'll share this with you guys. I'm sorry. Let me just copy the link and paste in the chat so you guys can look at that really. Yeah. So again, a bar chart, right? But you know what we can do with the bar charts? We can basically compare numerical values using the length of the bars because the lengths are indicative of the value of each variable, right? So yeah. Next, let's look at a pie chart now, right? So for a pie chart, again, so you guys, what I want you guys to actually pay attention to is that I don't have anything memorized. I'm just using what Show Me tells me to do. That's all I'm doing, right? So I go and Show Me again now. But first, let's look at pie chart, right? So pie chart, right? They allow you to visualize parts of the whole, right? So in Tableau, and really in any other tool for creating charts, right? We use pie charts to show how dimensions compare with each other, right? But yeah, like there's some controversy around like how I'm going to use a pie chart, right? Um, Tableau themselves they recommend that provided you don't have more than five categories and less than two categories, then you should use a pie chart. If you have more than five categories, then maybe just use a pie chart, right? So, so this is by itself it's quite controversial, right? People would say different things, right? But for me, I agree with that convention. Like once you have more than five categories, what does that mean categories, right? So look at this, for example, now if you look at our subcategory here now, if I drag this, see we have 1, 2, 3, we have 17 categories there, right? I know because I can see the 17 marks I expressed down here, right? In this case, yeah, I don't create the pie charts with this one. Why? Because now let me show you what it looks like, right? I can have quantity come here. I have quantity come here, my rows, and I select the pie chart. So see what it looks like here. Like this doesn't really make sense. Like, because like you can't pick out anything like in particular. Why? And this is why, because we have too many categories here. And that's what's meant by, if you have more than 5 categories, it's not use a pie chart, just use a pie chart, right? Again, it's not use a pie chart if you have categories that have very small differences in values. So for example, now I have maybe a category that is 30%, and I have a different category that's also 29%. So in that case, now it's difficult to tell them apart because they have very slight difference there, right? So if they are um significantly different, you can use them, but if they are not, advise you not to use them. So you have 20 categories, you have similar values, you have negative values, and then your all stuff does not measure up to 100%. In that case, you want to avoid the pie charts, right? So let's look how to create the pie charts. Already saw that, to be honest, but on Tableau, you can look at that again. So again, I'm going on show me. I click on pie charts, and it tells me that I need one dimension, at least one dimension, and 1 or 2 measures, right? So what I can do here is I know, because I've looked at the data, I know that the category has just three um categories, right? Let me show you what he has. He has furniture, supplies, and technology. So this guy now is a prime target for a pie chart because we only have 3 categories there. So he fits into that 2 to 5 category limit that we already like established, right? So what I'll do is I'll select category. I'll go to and I'll control click on, I guess I'll click on profit actually. So I want to see which my categories are most profitable and by what percentage, right? So now I can click on my pie chart now, and I have this small pie chart here. Then I can come here and extend it to the entire view, make it bigger, right? But now it doesn't really make sense because I can see the pies, but what do they represent? So here again, we can take advantage of the max card to like label it appropriately, right? So what I would do now is I would have my category as on colors. I would click on control. By the way, so if you don't click on control, you would remove it from where it is, right? For example, let me show you. If I just drag to label, like you see, it's no longer colored by category again. So to avoid that, you want to just click on control and then drag to label. So that way, just it adds the category to your label there. So now I can see that the red ones for technology, place, and it's clear that we make the most profit from our technology, right? But question now becomes by how much percent compared to the total. So how do I know? Now I can drag profits that is currently on the size, an angle section. So I'll drag profit to my label also, so I can see how much we have for each category now. But now it really tells me the value that, oh, total profit for technology was 660,000. But you see, that's not all I want to know. I want to know how it compares to the other parts, right? That's how many percent is this section or category contributing to our entire business, right? What I can then do is I can come on my label for sum of profits, and come here, then I can click on this drop down here, and I'll scroll down to a quick table calculation. Let me show that again. So drop down sum of profits, go down to quick table calculation, and I'll select this one here called percent of total. And I select that, and it just changes. And then now we know that technology contributes about 45% to our profits, like in Superstore as a business, right? So now this becomes my pie chart here. So again, run through the comments to see what people are saying. I see. Yeah, actually, we should do that next time. I'm sorry about that, guys. I'm very sorry about that. So what if you have 3 categories, but there's sub 100? Or in that case, like the advice not to use a pie chart, Nabila, right? We consider other chart types, tree maps, or even like a bar chart, right? So yeah. So we can proceed now. We have some more to cover. So I want to quickly run through them so Abby can also like do our own session. So next we'll look at what do we have here? We'll look at a tree map. Right? So for a tree map, right, it's really quite similar to a pie chart because they, in a sense, achieve the same thing, right? Also use tree maps to visualize parts of the whole, right? But maybe because you want to show variety in your chart or your dashboard, right? You don't want to use pie charts ever so often, right? So you can maybe like utilize like tree maps also, right? So the rules are the same. So a pie chart also, like, do not use them if you have multiple categories, and also don't use them if you have values that are very similar. because now it's difficult to tell the sizes apart. That's the reason why, right? So only use them if you have values that are significantly different from each other, and they are not more than, again, 5 categories also, right? So how do we create tree maps on Tableau? Really the same thing, same way, right? So I go to tree maps here. I have tree maps here, and it says just like a pie chart, I want one or more dimensions and one or two measures, right? So what I can then do is let's try and change things up a little bit for this one. So let's see what we can use for a tree map now. So let's do segments and quantity, right? So segment contains, let's run through what it contains again, because even I can't remember again. Segment contains things like, I think for each product, right, it tells you if it's a consumer product, it's corporate, or it's a home office, right? So now I'll select segments. I'll say for each segment, right, how much quantity have we sold for each segment, right? So I'm holding segments, holding control and quantity. Then I'll select my tree map here, right? And you see it tells me that very easily I know that the consumer like cut market has the largest chunk of sales in terms of quantity, right? I can drag my quantity value to my label so I can actually see that very, very clearly, right? I can see, for segments, we sold 92,157 quantities of consumer like items, and then we sold just 32,590 of the home office items there. So it's how to create a tree map here. Very, very, very similar to how you create a pie chart, right? So I'll call this a tree map and see what we're saying about the tree maps. Um, Okay, cool. So next we can proceed to what we have here now. So let's look at the bubble charts. So we have just four more, right? So I'll just quickly run through all of them, right? So we have a bubble chart now. So for a bubble chart, let's see what that allows us to do, right? It's really simple. Again, bubble chart, right? It allows you to compare between categories, right? And it uses size as a primary visual element. What does that mean? Just like a pie chart where you utilize the size to tell the categories apart, right? Bubble chart is similar to like this in the sense that you can also use size of a bubble to, in a sense, depict the value of that quantity, right? But then, sorry guys, one key thing to note for when using bubble charts is that for bubble charts, you don't use bubble charts when you don't really care about accuracy of like I guess the size of the bubbles in this case, right? So like basically you don't care so much about the accuracy, you just want to see, you don't just quickly compare like categories using their sizes, right? That's a perfect use case for a bubble chart. So in my case now, let's try and create bubble charts using our shipping mode and quantity. So now we want to see which shipping mode, right? We've used the most, like in the past, going back to past 4 years, really, right? So what we can do here is, again, I go to bubble charts, and I see that for a pack bubbles here, it's similarly to what I use for a tree map and pie chart. I really want to use one or more dimensions and one or two measures, right? So I'll select, in this case, shipping mode, and I'll select quantity, and I'll select my my path bubbles here. And very easily, we can already tell that, that it appears that the standard class, right, is what our customers use to ship the items the most, followed by second class and first class. Very few of our customers would choose the same day shipping mode, maybe probably because it's more expensive, and that makes sense, right? So I call this here a bubble chart, right? So moving on, now let's look at the highlights, line chart, area chart, and heat map. So those are the last four that we want to look at. So I'll quickly run through them. So first, let's look at the highlights, right? So I don't know if you, so the funny thing is that I used to confuse an highlight chart with an heat map, right? Because I'll show you what it looks like, right? I think it's best explained when you look at it. So for an highlight map, we want to use we need at least one measure, just one measure, right? And then one or more dimensions, right? That's what we need for our highlight map here. So in my case now, I would say I want to visualize subcategory, region using their sales, right? Let me show you what that looks like. So I'll drag subcategory. Whilst holding control, I'll click on region. Now I'll click on sales here. So these are the three elements I want to use, or fields I want to use to create my highlights map, right? Then I'll select the highlight tables here, right? And then so you can see what it looks like, right? So pretty much, right? A very good use case for an highlights map really is if you want to visualize like by time. So now I'm not sure we have time data on our data source here, but let's look at that. I'm really not sure. I'll just confirm. For other date now, we only have the dates. We have dates, so we can't utilize that, right? So like for me, right, in more like for work, right, I would typically use an highlights map when I'm trying to visualize. For example, now I want to see what time of the day or how of the day we have the most sale, like on a daily basis, right? So now where you have region and subcategory, right, I would have maybe like the time at the hour block, right? And then you see, oh, for example, now we had 50 orders by 7 a.m. And then we had 10 orders by 9 p.m., right? But then by looking at everything as a whole, you're able to tell what's like what part of the day like you have the most like activity when it comes to like I guess purchase, right? So because we don't have the time field here, I can't do that, right? So instead we have to make do with this one here. So I can to make this maybe look nicer, I can start to remove my sales from my card from my label. So we only just see like the color like intensity like across board. So already I can tell that, oh, it looks like for the central region, right? Like we have very strong activity for sales here. And it makes sense, right? Because we sold the most we sold the most phones in the central region, right? Then followed by really what you can tell from this is that like you have the bulk of activity in the central region. That's what you can tell first and foremost, right? And then you can also tell that for the other regions like EMEA, North Asia, Oceania, South and South Asia, right? Like we have the most sales across these three subcategories here, book, shares, and copy as well, because you also like, you can see that they have like some strong like density of color also here, right? Meanwhile, whereas for things like in those same regions, right, not EMEA, Asia, Oceania, right, we have really slow performance for things like envelopes and fasteners. So you can tell like very, very easily that's what's happening across your data set, right? So I call this guy here an highlight map. So again, as I create that, I selected what subcategory region and sales. Selected subcategory, region, and sales here. And then I selected another show me, I selected the highlights. It's called highlight tables actually on Tableau, right? Highlight tables. So actually I'll just stick to that convention, call it highlight table, yeah. So cool. Moving on. And we have just 3 more now to cover. Now let's look at probably one of the most common like chart styles, really, right? Line chart, right? So I call this a line chart, right? So typically you use a line chart where you want to visualize data across a time period, right? Some of my familiar with called time series analysis, right? The idea is just you want to just visualize the quantity over time. So in our case now, right, let's see how we can visualize sales for each year. That's time. So use time as year in this case right now. So very, very quickly, if I go to my line chart here, it tells me that I only need, in fact, I don't even need a dimension if I want to, but then at least I need at least one measure here, right? So what I'll do is I'll select my order date and I'll select my sales, right? And I'll select a line chart here. And I have this very, very simple line chart that I've created here. So I can even extend this further and say, you know what, I want to see the lines broken down by categories, right? So how do I do that? How do I do that? I drag categories here to my color on my max card. So it separates the lines into three. If I drag subcategories, you can imagine I would have multiple lines. That might not look pretty, but let's look at that, right? Um, maybe this even helps you with some very deep analysis. For example, now I can see that for this subcategory here, chairs, right? It used to be the second best performing subcategory, right? But then in 2012, it got overtaken by both bookcases and copiers. But then afterwards, it regained its place again. 2013, but then again lost its place in 2014. Right. So you can look at it that way if you want to, right? But then I want to make it pretty, so I will just select my category and have these three categories. Now to extend this further, I can drag sales to my label. But now, like, this doesn't look pretty again because now I'm seeing too many like values here where I can already like see them if I like click on the or just go and move around the line chart, right? So something I can also do here is I can edit the labels to fit my own specific purpose, right? So in this case now, I only want to see labels at the beginning and end of each of the lines, not like within the middle. So what I'll do is I'll go on label, right? Click on labels, and I'll say I want to see my max labels in the line ends really. And yeah, that's what I want to see. Yeah, I can decide and see why I want to see them at the end of the line. So I'll uncheck start of the line if I want to. So that way it only shows here, right? Or I can say I want it to show at the start and end of the line, like this here. And then I can also decide to increase the size of the line charts and just make it this way, like that. So this is how you can like play around the line charts using your max card here, right? So moving on, now we can look at the area chart, right? So we are already fast spent, so I'll rush through this one. Very, very sorry, guys. So for my area chart now, again, I'll go and show me and show area chart. Area chart, it works very similar to like a line chart, right? But the idea is instead of having just a line, we have, for example, now all the other white space we have here will be occupied by like our visual elements, right? So again, I'll do the same thing I've done now. I'll use my order and sales, and then I'll split by category, right? So click on order dates, click on sales, sorry, order dates, I'll click on sales, and then I'll click on and I'll select my area chart here. Right, so we have this really nice, I guess, line chart in a sense, but has other white spaces occupied by visual elements in this case, right? What I can then do is I can now drag category to my color, so it splits the different so it's different areas, right? So we can see the blue is for furniture, yellow is orange, right? Orange for office supplies, and the red is for technology, right? And by the way, I can also edit like this date feed here because so far I've just been using the year. I can decide to just change this guy, for example, now to show me like on a monthly basis, right? I have this really nice chart here. Yeah, and I can, yeah. So yeah, we can see that for actually across all the segments we've been growing year on year, right? So although more so in some categories than others, for example, like the furniture, we saw very, very significant growth like between October 2014 and November 2014, right? And also year also from April to June, right? So this is how you put an area chart here. So I'll call this an area charts. And for the last one, we'll create an heat map. So for an heat map again, I'll go and show me, and it says to create an heat map, I only need to have my one or more dimensions and one or two measures, right? So for our case, let's try and create an heat map across again subcategory, region, and our sales, right? So I'll select subcategory, I'll select my region, and I'll select sales. And then I can now choose my heat map option here. So I have this, sorry. So I have this showing, right? So the cool thing is that I can change the on the max card, right? So by default, it uses this. I guess this is a square, right? This is a square by default, right? I can change them, say, no, I don't want a square. Instead, give me a circle like this, right? I can even change the size if I want. Make it bigger a little bit. And for each circle that represents like a value. For example, here we can see that in the central region for appliances, we sold this amount like of sales, but then we had the most like here, I think because it looks like it's the biggest, right? And then we have some good ones here also, right? Well, what you can easily see here is across each region, you can see which subcategories are performing very, very well. Canada, again, you can see that we don't really have a strong category there. For a strong region like Central, we can see easily that for fasteners and labels, we do not have such strong performance there, right? So yeah, now we have our EAT map also. Let me spell it again. Spell EAT map. So yeah, that's all the chart tabs and styles I want us to look at. So I believe you guys have questions for me now. We can take them.
Thanks a lot, John. Thank you.
Okay. If felt like I was rushing at some points, but then I was looking at the time also.
Yeah, we were short of time, but I think we were able to cover. But Shola Emiade has a question. Let me unmute, allow him to talk. Yes, Shola, you can speak now.
All right, Shola, you can speak now.
All right. Thank you so much, John, for an amazing session. I really enjoyed the session. Thank you so much.
Yeah, welcome.
I have a question
Okay.
with regards to the time series chart.
Okay, that's the line chart here. Okay.
Yeah, so I saw that you were able to drill down from the years to the months and so on. I'm quite familiar with Power BI. I know that there is this time intelligence stuff where sometimes if you don't have the date drilled down like that, there's a way you can bring in some changes where it gives you the ability to be able to drill down.
I see.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so in Tableau now, I'm thinking that this data set has those categories already.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so assuming that one has a data set that is not that drilled down originally, is it possible to also effect that in Tableau?
Yeah, actually, so the thing about Tableau is this, right? Like, let's look at that particular field again, right? The other date field, right? So what you see that it's a date field, right? And by default, right, from a date field now, you have the year, the month, and the day, right? So Tableau allows you drill down into these constituents, right? So for example, you can get the year. Actually, let me show you. So you can get the year. I can go down further to the quarter. So I'm looking on this plus icon here, right? Okay, I can go down further to the months. I can go down further to the week, and I can even go down further to the daily basis, right? Let me remove this category there so it doesn't confuse us too much, right? But again, because you see that, but because we don't have the time field here, we can't go beyond like the day field right here, because we really don't have like more than this, right? So to answer your question about if you don't have it, I mean, I look at this, right? If you don't have, for example, now a time field here, like you really can't assume like what time that is coming from, right? So I'm not sure you can create that time yourself, right? What you can, however, do is, as long as you have a date field, right? You are able to drill down further to different constituents, right? If you're asking if you can extract these values, for example, you can extract time, the hour, day, the month. Yes, you can extract those values, right? But then to utilize them and drill down, right? What you want to do is you want to make sure that what is on your chart is the date field itself, right? In our case, now other dates, right? And then from this other date now, I can now drill down further however I want, right? I don't know if that answers the question. Or maybe you can rephrase if I'm not answering correctly.
No, yeah, you actually answered correctly. So I just wanted to confirm that the quarter, the day, the month, whatever are default to Tableau.
It's default also. It's default, yeah. So I say I can't
okay.
yeah, it's default also. So you can just go however you want, yeah.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much, Shala. We're just going to thanks a lot, John. This was really, really helpful. And there's comments in the chat for you telling you thank you as well. So you can take a look or respond to any additional questions. We'll just quickly spend 5 minutes showing you a Tableau visual vocabulary. Idris, are you available before we go into the next session?
Actually, sorry, Abby, I'm very, very sorry actually. Sorry, I actually forgot. So guys, quick one right before I go, right? On this slide, right? There's I left some resources at the bottom here. So Tableau themselves, they have like a visual analytics guide, right? That sort of shows you how to utilize each chart type. So if you go there, you can read through, like they have this very nice repo of very, very good information, right? Across all of the chart styles that you have. So you can utilize that to just practice also, right? And also there's the data source again there, if you want to like work with it still, right? So yeah, that's about it.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, John.
You're welcome, guys. Stop sharing my screen now.
Yes. Idris, I don't know if you want to quickly take us for 5 minutes.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me just share my screen. Yep. Okay, yeah, this is the public for Andy, and he has something we call visual vocabulary, where it helps us to choose charts based on the analysis that we want to do. So we have a lot of analysis. We have change over time, correlation, ranking, part of flow, spatial magnitude, and stuff like that, and distribution. So, and there are a lot of charts we can use to answer some of these questions. So maybe you want to do correlation and you don't know the right chart to use, you can just click on it and just come to this page and go to correlation. Okay, it's loading. Yeah, so these are a lot of charts that you can use for your analysis anytime you want to do something like correlation analysis and stuff like that. So this page just gives you idea on what to use to answer some problem. So maybe you want to do anything, you can just come here to see the best chart that you can use for that kind of problem that you are trying to solve, rather than relying on show me and stuff like that. As John said, you can build a lot of chart in Tableau. All these ones, they are not in show me. These ones, they're not in show me, but you can still do it in Tableau. So in the subsequent class, we're going to take you on how to build all these type of chart also without using show me at all. Because normally, in the last class, it was like GB was building some of the charts without using the show me. So you can build a lot of charts without using show me. But as time goes on, just step by step, as you're using show me, you will see a lot of chart, and you're going to have the ability to build a lot of chart without using the show me and stuff like that. So this is just it. So anytime you want to do an analysis and you don't know which chart to use, you can just come here to this page and click on all these things to see an example of chart that will suit to your analysis. So we will add this link to the email that we are going to send out today. So anytime you need it, you can just click on the email or the link and come here and see a lot of stuff. So that's just it.
Okay, awesome. So we have 40 more minutes roughly, and we need to go into the second session, which is filters. If you have any questions, please just use if you have questions related to the session, use the Q&A. And if you have questions, maybe any other chats or chatter, just use the chat box. All right, so I'm going to be talking about filters. Just give me a moment to share my screen. 1 second.
So I think that we have to be flexible.
Okay. Awesome. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. But can you see my screen? Can you see a Tableau workbook now?
No.
Okay. Let me reshare. Okay. Can you see a Tableau workbook now?
Yep.
All right, awesome. So Let me see, can I do slideshow and my slideshow is taking a bit to load. Okay. All right. Oh, wow, this shows 2022. Pardon me, I didn't edit that. And this is the wrong title. Wow. Anyways, hi everyone. So my name is Abisola. I'm just going to do a quick intro. I'm a full-time Tableau visionary. It used to be known as Zen Master program, but it's not visionary. I also do analytics at Paystack, and I've been in the data space for 6-7 years now-ish. Yeah. And when I'm not doing data things or on the internet, I like to play tennis and do random interesting things like this. But yeah, that's about my life. So yes, this is our topic, all about filters. We're going to talk about filters, why they're important, what you can use them to do, and how do you leverage them when you're building your dashboards and reports. Awesome. So again, filters are a fundamental aspect of Tableau. It helps you, again, to narrow down data. Like if you had a water filter, for example, the reason you're using it is you want to make your water cleaner, so you want to remove the dirt. So if you had a data set, the rest of the data is not exactly dirty, but you don't need it, right? So you want to use a filter to remove what you don't need, so you have access to only what you need. It helps you interact with your data so that you focus on only specific information. Imagine you had a supermarket and you were selling 500 SKUs, right? And you had different customers, right? Let's say you had your database that had information on orders, right? But okay, you also factor in the returns. Maybe some customer came to return X, Y, and Z, right? That data is also available. But for example, you only wanted to measure how much am I selling daily. I don't want to measure returns. I want to measure maybe only how much I'm selling daily. Then in that moment, I don't need my return data. So I want to filter it. So in this conversation, we're just going to explore the different types of filters that are available in Tableau and how you can use them to gain insights from your data. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly talk through Tableau's order of operations. And this is an image from Tableau's website in one of their resources or blogs, and it will be shared in the roundup email. Basically, it talks about how Tableau sees data and how filters apply to data from top to bottom, right? The first thing is extract filters, right? The next is data source filters, context filters, dimension filters, measure filters, and table calculation filters. And we'll go into, at least we'll cover 6 of this or 5 of this, and I would explain as we go on. So types of filters, right? Let's look at extracts and data source filters. So when you think of your data set, for example, right now we are only showing you data from like a CSV, right? Or a Google Sheet. And if you wanted to connect to that data, let me just walk you through. Give me a second. Right, so this is Tableau Desktop. And the reason I'm using desktop and not public for this is that public does not have this functionality of extracting data, right? But again, we've connected to Superstore, right? And in Superstore, right, let's go to extract data. If we click on extract data, we can add a filter here. It tells you, specify how much data to extract. If you add a filter here and we say country, limited to United States, right? And we say, okay, right? And we extract it. That means that in the data that is coming into Tableau itself, it's only going to give us United States related information because we've removed Canada from it, right? Look at edit, we only picked the US, right? This means we've removed Canada, right? And you can click extract. What that means is when you go further down to the rest of the other types of filters, it's going to only action the United States data that you brought in because that is what you picked. From the extract and the data source bit, you've already told it to exclude any information that is not related to United States. Do you understand? So that's using the extract filter, right? And I'm showing you that using Tableau Desktop because it's not available in public. All right, so let's go to Tableau Public and what is available for us. Here we have the data source filter, right? We connected this to our Superstore data set, the same one we've all been using in the data sets 1 and 2 that we've shared. Again, we're not really focusing on what is in the data set right now. They're all the same. It's ship mode, it's standard. Some just the data set between 1 and 2, either one has more rows than the other, but right now we're not looking for accuracy because really this is fictitious data. Do you understand? So we're just talking about the concepts and just trying to understand the concepts, right? So for data source filter, so we've connected to our Superstore data set. We've pulled in orders here. And then we have edits, right? Let's remove this and start again. So let's say we have edits, right? And it's pretty much similar to what we just showed, which is in the extract filter. This is a data source filter. And we say for this, right? Let's pick segment, right? If you pick segment, that means if you pick only consumer segment, right? If you pick only the consumer segment and you pick OK, you would only see consumer segments in your data, right? It had filtered everything off. So let me explain. Let's cancel. Let's come here first and let's go to segments. If you come to segments, you can see that here we can see consumer, corporate, home office, right? We can see the sales, right? For all three, right? But if we come to data source here and we click add a filter and we add segments, right? And we click OK, and we pick only consumer, right? And we click OK. We're going to see here that everything is gone because we've already told it from scratch that it should only pick consumer, right? And you may ask that, what is the point? I'm going to remove all of this. That was just an explanation. You may actually wonder, like, why do we actually use filters maybe at this data source level, which is at the extract and the data source level? The reason is when you work in like, when you're building dashboards and you need your performance of your dashboard to be great, by the time you start building more dashboards, you understand what it means to factor in performance, right? When you have multiple worksheets and multiple dashboards and you don't want your Tableau workbook or your report to be taking 5 minutes to load because your stakeholders at work, they don't have that time. It's the same way when you try to check Instagram or you try to check Twitter. If it's loading for too long in your mind, you're just like, why is this thing slow, right? When you send your stakeholders a report, you want them to access it immediately, right? You don't want them to continue refreshing and they'll tell you it's not working, right? So that's when you use extracts plus data source filters when you're really thinking about performance. You don't want to bring in the information that is not necessary into your dashboard because you want it to be fast, right? Okay, so that's it on extracts plus data source filters. So let's go into context filters. And I would explain this a bit more. Yeah, I would explain this a bit more shortly, but I think while we're talking about context filters, we would also talk about dimension filters, right? So let's go in here. So let's clear this screen, right? A dimension, remember, if you joined the first session, you remember that we talked about dimensions. Sorry, I was a bit distracted from the chat. So remember last week we talked about discrete dimensions, right? And we talked about continuous measures and all those things. So a dimension is segment, for example, right? We have segment here and we have sales here, right? Let's try and let's do a quick show me, right? Okay. So how do we filter discrete dimensions, for example? So there are multiple ways to do filtering, right? If we picked segment here and we clicked filter, right? Tableau gives us multiple options. Here, it tells us select from list. We can use all of this. If you say use all, it keeps all of it, right? If we say exclude, right? If we exclude everything here and we apply it, you'll see that everything is gone because we told it to exclude, right? If we remove the exclude and we apply, everything is back, right? So let's actually show the filter control and let's see what that gives us. Here, there are multiple options that you can see here. The same way we could, when we did edit filter, right? It gave us all of this drop down, right? There's also this control here, and it gives us multiple things. For example, single value list, this is what you see. It means that it only allows you to pick one option in the category, right? So consumer, corporate, home office, right? that's single value list. If you pick single value drop down, it's just a difference. Consumer, corporate, you can only pick one thing. It's pretty much like the same thing. Single value slider. This one is not, the use case for this is lower. Yeah, it's not really, it depends on what you're doing. So multiple value list, this means that you can pick multiple values. For example, I want to see how much we've sold across multiple segments, corporate and home office, right? Or consumer and home office, right? You can walk through, you can use the multiple value list. Multiple value drop down. This one, when you're building your dashboard and you're optimizing for space, right? Instead of maybe having an entire drop down like this, right? Actually, let's change this to, let's make this subcategory so you understand what I'm saying. And then let's clear this filter and let's add another filter. Great. So if you're building a dashboard and you had all these drop downs, right? If you wanted to optimize for space, it would make sense that, oh, you use multiple value drop down so that you can pick here what you want. And if you wanted 4 values, right? Or multiple values custom list. For example, if you want copiers or bookcase, both of them, you can use command and hold in multiple, right? And then it gives you all of this, right? So that's pretty much about the control. Let's try to do a few things now. So let me explain a bit. Let's do multiple value list. There's also one more I missed, which is wildcard match. So wildcard match can just mean like, if I type M or let's say C, if I enter anything that has C here, all the subcategories that has C in their name, right? Everything is going to show, right? If I do C star, anything that starts with C, right? It's going to only pick that category, right? So that's what you see when it comes to like dimension filters, right? One more thing is there's also another way to filter. For example, if I do a selection like this, right? I can tell Tableau to keep only what I've selected. So if I do all this, it can keep only that, right? And then it's automatically filtered by all these categories that I've picked, right? Okay, so that's it for dimension filters. Since we're on dimension filters, let's go to context filters. And I'm going to try and explain this a bit more. Let's clear our view. Okay, let's use this to explain. Right, so imagine we can build this from scratch, right? Let's clear the view, categories. So imagine we had, this data set has subcategory in it, right? So we have subcategory and we have the sales of subcategory, right? So let's put this here. Let's do drop down. So from what you can see, can you tell me the top 5 subcategories quickly in the chat box? Let's just see if you're following. Top 5 subcategories. Are we there? Shares, phone, story, tables, binders. Awesome. Okay, yes, okay. We're getting it. All right. So let's add category to it, right? So these top 5, okay, you're following. So these top 5 subcategories, right? Look at them here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, binders is the last one, right? You can see that they are across 3 different type of categories. They are in furniture, technology, office supplies, right? The top 5 here is across furniture, technology, office supplies, right? Okay, but imagine I wanted the top 5 subcategories per category. That is, I want to see the top 5 in furniture. I want to see the top 5 in technology. I want to see the top 5 in office supplies, right? So if you picked that, right, and you did subcategory and you picked sales, right, like what we just did, Tableau automatically gives you this as your top 5. So if I even did a filter here, and I'm going to come back and show you one thing. Remember here, I showed you general, right? But what I didn't do is I didn't show you what was in the rest, right? Wildcard, condition, and top, right? So if I pick top 5 by field and I wanted to see my top 5, right, by sales. Let's pick it here. Let's apply that. What do we see? It gives us our chairs, phone, storage, tables, binders, right? But if I add, so let's say, okay. But if I add category to the view, right? So let's add category here, right? You'll see that if I filter my top 5 here, right? It doesn't it's not giving me top 5 in each category. It's giving me the overall top 5, right? So if I wanted to see my top 5 in each subcategory, right? Sorry, my top 5 in each category, my top 5 subcategories in each category, what do I need to do? That's where context filters come in. And I'm going to explain what that means. Now, if you add category into the filter view and you add it as, let's remove it from, if we remove it from context, right? You will see that this is, if you select all the categories, you'll see that we're back to chairs, phones, storage, tables, and binders, right? But if we add category to context, right? Actually, let's clear that. Yes, so if we add category to context, what now happens is it's giving us top 5 in office supplies. This is the top 5. Can you see now that our previous top 5, which is here, chairs, tables, storage, binders, and phones, is different from our top 5 here, because now we're looking at our top 5 by subcategory, right? If we go to furniture, we can see our top 5 in furniture. If we go to technology, technology only has 4 subcategories, so there's no room for top 5. It's only top 4 you can see, because in our data, let's clear it here. Let's go to category. Let's go to subcategory. Can you see that in technology is only 4, right? So yeah, furniture, if you pick top 5, you get 4. Office supplies gives you the top 5 subcategories in this category, because you've added this category filter, you've added it into context, right? And that is why it comes to the top here, and you see that it's grayed out, because you are telling it, put this category that I'm saying in context, and based on that information, now evaluate my data, right? Okay, I'm saying, I think this is too fast. What part is too fast? Let me know what to go over. Did we get the extract and data source bits? Okay, so you want us to go over context filters again. All right, cool. Let's go over context filters again. So let's start from here. So we have our data set, right? We have our data sets and we have subcategories, right? And we have categories, right? And we have, let's say we want to see the sales. Great. Let's make it visible. Let's bring this forward so that it explains it better. Remember, I asked that if you look at this, our data set, what is our top 5? And we all agree that our top 5 is chairs, phones, storage, tables, and binders, right? Remember that this is giving us our top 5 across board, right? On a subcategory level, right? But based on this, if I tell Tableau to give me my top 5, right? Let's remove category from the view. And I tell Tableau to give me, let's filter, right? And I say, give me top 5 subcategories. It gives me chairs, phones, storage, tables, and binders. My question is answered. This is my top 5. But if I wanted to see my top 5 in each category, remember that subcategory is a subset of the main categories, right? So if I say, okay, I have, these are my categories here. I have furniture, office supplies, and technology. Now, show me my top 5 in each category, right? My top 5 subcategories in each category, right? That's where this comes in, right? if you filter here, it gives you your top 5, which is chairs, tables, bookcases, and furnishings. And the way it's doing that is because we added category now into the filter view. And after doing that, we now told it, let's remove it from context. And then we now said add to context, right? That's the only action you need to take. You are telling it to factor in category, and then you're telling it add it to the context, right? If you don't do that, your top 5 that Tableau is going to give you straight is chairs, phone, storage, tables, and binders. But if you want to see your top 5 across each category, then you just need to add the category field into the filters, and then you click add to context, right? Probably if you watch the video, it might make more sense over time, but we are running out of time, so I'm going to try and move a bit faster. Remember that we also talked about dimension filters, right? This is a dimension filter. We talked about that briefly, but let's add another. Let's go over it again. Dimension filter, let's do ship mode, and then let's do profits. So this is basically telling us profit by how the products were shipped. So we made most profit from standard class shipping, right? And if we wanted to filter anything here, and how I did that is I pressed Command or Control, depending on what computer you use, and I moved it to filters, and that is how this popped up, right? So you can select all here, you can select none, you can tell it to exclude standard class. If I tell you to exclude standard class, you see that we can't see standard class again. Okay, I hope that explains dimension filters and the different ways that we can use it. And then we also went over the control bits, right? So that's that. Measure filters, right? So for this, again, we talked about dimension and measures in the last week, right? So let's quickly talk about measures. So imagine we're looking at our sales by region, right? Let's clear this. This is region and this is sales, right? This is our total sales. So if we move this sum of sales, let's say Command or Control, and you move it to filter, something pops up, right? It asks you, Tableau asks you, how do you want to filter? If you say all values, sum, or the aggregates, right? So let's say we want to filter on the sum of sales, right? We click next, it gives us this option. Compared to your dimensions, your discrete dimension fields, it's not exactly the same, right? But it's similar. So here it gives you a range, right? And from this, it picks the lowest amount to the largest amount. If you look at on this side, you can see that the lowest is 391,722, and the largest amount is 739. So it picks that range. You can ask it to filter and say at least 300 or at least 391, right? If I do that, it gives me everything, because think about this by saying less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to, right? If I say at most, that means filter this and don't give me any number more than this amount I'm saying. So if I say don't give me any number more than 500,000, right? If you apply that, you'll see that what it gives you is just the south region, because that's only what fits into your filter. So let's say, okay. And if we do this, if we show filter, right, here, you can also explore using like the range of values, or at least, or at most. If we do range of values, for example, right, and we say, give me between 900 and 600, you'll see that these are the numbers between this region, their sum of sales falls into the range that you have defined here, right? Okay, so that's really just it on continuous measures. And it's not just, for example, it's not, there's at least at most special. Let's say your data set has null values. Nulls are zeros or empty, not zeros, like they're empty, right? You can tell it that it should only factor in your null values or null values, right? Okay, so that's it on continuous measures, right? All right, let's keep going. Yes, we talked about quick filters earlier. And an example of quick filter is what I showed you, where I said, if you scroll all the way here, you can ask Tableau to keep only that, and then you can do your analysis. You'll see that it automatically gives you a filter here. It has assigned the filter here, right? Because that is what you've picked, right? And Tableau has automatically created that filter. So I'm going to do it one more time. I'm just going to come and see. If this is clicking into in the space in this worksheet. You click into it and select what you want. And if you click only, Tableau automatically filters out that information and then actions on it. Okay. So let's go to top N. And I think we already actually demoed this, which is when we were talking about in the context of context. Please, we would get to questions shortly. Just give me a moment. Right, top N. We talked about that when we talked about top N when we were talking about context filters, but I'll quickly go over it again. Let's clear the screen. Let's pick a product name. No, this is too much. Let's pick a category again. Let's pick ship mode. And let's pick sales, right? Filter. No. Cool. So if we say we want to see the top N, maybe top 2, right? And we apply, that's what top N means, right? You can already see that by top 2. And it can also be top 3, right? And depending on your data sets, it can be top anything. When we get to parameters, we'll talk about how you can use parameters to control what you see on the screen, right? That means you're telling it that filter by this particular instruction I'm giving you. Another bit here, formula is, I didn't touch on this, but basically this means writing your own SQL or like calculation and telling it how to filter the top N you get, but that is out of scope for this level that we're in, so I'm not going to focus on that. So that's really just top N. Then we're going to go to sets, but before we get to sets, I want to show you about filter actions, which is on dashboard. 1 second. So imagine we had a dashboard, right? This is our dashboard. Cool. So this is our dashboard. You wanted to present this and you wanted some interactivity, right? If you want, we can quickly build this dashboard together. So let's go to sales by states. So state is here. And this is sales. We move sales to color, right? And in color here, let's edit it. Let's give it a different, no, I don't like that one. Let's use this one. All right, cool. 10 unknowns, let's edit that. The reason is because this country is in the United States, but these provinces are in Canada, right? So it doesn't recognize it, right? So we're just going to tell it to filter it out, right? So we've created this view that you're seeing here. You can follow how we created that, right? Okay, and what else can we see in our dashboard? We have a profit by subcategory. So let me just show you how I created that. We double click subcategory, put profits, and we use show me here to change it to a bar chart, right? And we filter from the top, right, to order it. And let's say we want to see our numbers on the bar, right? This total profit numbers. If you click this icon that has a T here, it shows here. You also want to maybe change the color. You can do that here. If you wanted to match the text of your color to the color of the bar, you can say match mark color. If you wanted to remove this axis because you already had the numbers on the bar and there's no need for this range, you can right click and remove the header, right? So that's how I got profit by subcategory, right? So if I wanted whoever is viewing this dashboard, for example, to interact with it, I would say use this particular dashboard, as in use sales by state as a filter. And how do I do that? There's this little funnel, can you see here, that says use as filter? And I'm just going to do that and demonstrate something, and I want you to tell me what happens when you see it. So let's use it as filter, and then let's go ahead. So I click on Colorado. I click on Wyoming, Kansas, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan. Can anybody tell me what they're seeing that is happening? I can see I'm not seeing the changes I'm making on your screen. Can everyone see my screen? Exactly. One-off, yes, profits by subcategory changes. Exactly. So we are using this chart. Exactly. Yes, you're following. So we're using this chart to filter, right? Because remember we said, you clicked on this funnel and we said, use it to filter this dashboard, right? So we continue to see that change. And this is like interactivity. So if you presented this, whoever is reading your dashboard or reading a report, they can filter and see exactly what they want to see versus, I mean, they can see profits by subcategory as a whole throughout the United States. Our profit on subcategory is 56,094, right? But if I filter in Illinois, my profit on copier is 1832. If I go to Colorado, I'm not even selling copiers at all because I can immediately see it here. You get what I mean? Okay, so now one more thing, I'm going to show you something interesting. This is called V's in Tooltips, right? And I'm going to explain what happens here. But before I do that, actually, 1 second, we said, yes. I just wanted to show you that. Remember when I built this profit by subcategory and I added it to my dashboard? I didn't add anything to the filter, right? It was blank. But because I've created an action on this dashboard and I've said that this should filter this, when I go back to this sheet, you see that there's already a filter here. Automatically, Tableau has added that filter to it, right? So I just wanted to show you that so that you're not like surprised on what happened. Okay, so imagine I wanted my stakeholder to view the dashboard differently, right? Instead of what I'm seeing in this my dashboard now that, okay, fine, they have to click this and go all the way around like this. I wanted that when they're moving around each dashboard, sorry, each state, there is a tooltip, right, that pops out and shows them, like just expatiates to show a trend within that state, right? Like the sales trend or whatever. We call this V's in Tooltips, right? And I'm going to just quickly show you how this works. So remember that I had built, let's try and delete all the ones that we're not using. Let's delete. Where's my, oh, okay. Let's rebuild it again. It won't take us time. So let's quickly rebuild states and then sales, right? Okay. Command Z, sales to color, right? Again, we're just going to quickly change the color. Don't worry, let's just make it any other color, it doesn't matter. Now, how do I get to see what I was showing, which is that pop-up? That means that I need to build another chart, right? And that chart is going to, this is the chart I want to build, right? But let's quickly build it. So this is sales, and let's see sales by dates, right? So this is by 2019, 2020, blah, blah, blah. Let's see sales by month, right? Okay, so month through across all the months in the data set, right? This is our sales. Let's just label the charts, right? So that means I do command sales and I move it to label. And what that does is it puts all it labels the line chart for me pretty much, right? If I wanted to just quickly format the numbers, I click on format here and I tell it to number custom and I say display units. Because I don't want to read long numbers, I said just shorten it to thousands for me, right? Give me 1 decimal place, right? Let's leave it like that. Let's make the color orange and let's make it match the mark color, right? Since I have my numbers on I have my line chart labeled, I can remove this. I say remove show header. If I wanted to bring that back, I can come back to, let's come back to show header here somewhere. Where is it? 1 second. Okay, actually, I know where it is. Yeah, show header. If I want to bring it back, I bring it back here. So remember, where I clicked on show header is on the sales side. So if I remove it, show header here. If I want to bring it back, I click on show header. Anyways, so that's done. So where is my, yes, we're back to this, our sales by region. So I want to bring this view into this one. Wow, you guys, let's quickly work on the colors. They're looking a bit junky. All right, that looks easier on the eye. Let's click on Tooltip here. So Tooltip, and I'm going to explain tooltips. As you can see, as we're hovering over here, we can see state, province, Idaho, and we can see the sales. It's because it's a tooltip that was showing. So when we click on tooltip, for example, if I say don't show tooltips, when I scroll over all this place, I don't see anything, right? If I say show tooltips, right? And if I remove any of this, you see that before it was showing me states and amounts, but now it just shows me Montana and the dates. It doesn't have to tell me states because I removed the states, right? So now let's go to insert here, and we insert the sheet that we just built. I think we just built sheet 13. I didn't label it. That's not good enough. You need to label your sheets. Sheet 13, you can see it's there. Okay. And then what happens? You can see your viz in your tooltip. So if I click on Montana, I can see like the month of order dates. Sorry, I can see the sales across Montana from 2020 to 2022. This is not the best visual, obviously, because ideally I can tell it to filter for me. So there's actually filter. And let's tell it to give me only 2022, right? So let's quickly do that. Let's do that. So that reduces it, right? So if I come back here, you can see that it's neater. Yeah, it's not giving me all the years, right? So like California, it's easy for me to follow. I can see that it's only 2022, February to November, Oregon and all that. What else? Yes, we have only 4 minutes. I'm so sorry, but I don't want us to go over time. What we didn't get to, yes, combine filters. This is like when you have to use your logical operators. I don't know if some of you are familiar with using SQL. So you can do calculations. And I think in our next, not tomorrow's class, but in the either by session 7 or 6, we're going to get into calculations, like basic calculations. But we'll just show you briefly how to use logical operators like and or to create like some interesting filters. In terms of best practices, let's just quickly say it's essential. You need to keep filters relevant to your analysis goals. Know why you want to use a filter. Use filters for user interactivity. Optimize your data filter sources for performance. That's actually part of the main reasons why we need filters. And you need to document your filters, right? Generally, you need to document, and we'll go into that at some point. But the reason you're documenting is so that, for example, you work in an organization, you're likely not to work there forever, but you need to make it easier for anybody that will be maintaining that dashboard. So when we get into when we are creating calculated fields, right? Sample calculation, let's name it sample calculation. Something like this helps you. This calculation does XYZ, right? And then you can go on to say if sales greater than blah, 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 do this. But we're not going to go into calculations today. So, but I was just explaining why it's important to document your work. Okay, so let's quickly go to questions. Yes, you have access to the slides. Reflect on the property. Okay, you were answering the questions. Okay, so if you have, yes, you have access to the slide. How did I add a filter to the subcategory by using that horizontal line? Sorry, I'm not sure I understand that question. How did I get the tooltip chart in the map? Okay, let's quickly go over that. Remember, this is the map that we've built, right? This is tooltip on the left. So if we click on tooltip, actually, let's quickly rebuild it. Let's rebuild the map. This is region, no, state, right? And sales to color, right? Here we go. If you click on tooltip, what do you see? It shows you, if you're hovering over rather, you can see the state and you can see the sales, right? But imagine I want us to click on this and we want to see the trend. What has happened in Kansas? What have their sales been month on month in the year of 2023, right? How do we do that? We've built month on month 2022 here, right? All you need to do is go to tooltip here, tooltip. And then here, click on insert, click on sheets. The sheet that we just built where the month on month is sheet 13, right? Sheet 13, and you just click OK. Doing that gives you the, that's how you see it. That's how you see the line chart in your map. I don't know if that, okay, yes. Judith says, thank you. All right. Does state dimension automatically make up the map? That depends. You'll see that at the right here of states, can you see the global icon? It has like a globe, right? Tableau has recognized it as a location. But let's say you have states in your data and Tableau didn't recognize it. What you need to do is come here and change the geographic role, right? Change it to state or province and Tableau will pick it up, right? It's going to pick it up. So if we come to, actually, let's do, let me remove it from, what's it called? If I change it to none, if I change the geographic role of states to none, if I click on states, can you see what happens? Tableau doesn't recognize it as a state. But if I change it to state or province, right? And I re-click that, Tableau recognizes it as a state. So you just need to click here, geographic role, and work with that. Oluwatosin Adeoye, okay, allowed to talk. Oluwatosin, you have a question, please, can you go ahead? Akinkumi, I hope your question is answered. I just answered you. Yes, you have access to the recording. Oluwatosin, you can unmute to speak. Okay, I think you're not speaking. Let's go to Shola. I think Shola has another question. Hi, Shola. Can you?
Yes, thank you. Yes, can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you so much for the session. I really appreciate it. My first question is that looking at this map chart, does Tableau generate longitude and latitude values for map charts? That's my first question. Secondly, I want to find out if we are going to have a session on how to transfer these individual charts to a dashboard. I'm not sure I know how to do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, I can quickly show you how to turn an individual chart to a dashboard. So if you look at the bottom here, you can see this is create new worksheet, and this is create dashboard. When you've built your worksheets, you can see all your worksheets here. So if we add this, right, let's remove this, let's delete the container, and then this is like very ugly, but that's a simple dashboard. Although our final session, which is why I would say you should keep following, our final session on the 28th, Chidi is going to show us how to build a really fantastic dashboard. So stay tuned for that. Yeah. There was another question. Can we convert a non-geographical variable to be geographical? I mean, you can, but like changing customer name, why would you want to change customer name to geographical? I'm struggling to understand the use case for that, right? Because for this, we want to see it visually, seeing states on a map versus seeing states. If we change it to, let's remove none, right? And we put state like this versus states, seeing states. Oh, exactly, it has even disappeared, right? Seeing states like this versus seeing the states like this, right? Visually, this seems better. The last person that spoke asked 2 questions. Sorry, I don't remember.
Yes. All right. No, yeah, the first question was whether Tableau generates GPS points like the longitude and latitude values
yes.
for each of those states.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It does, yeah. Because in our data sets, there is no longitude and latitude. Do you get?
Yes, I noticed that actually.
Yeah, so Tableau automatically generates it. That's how it's able to locate it and put it on the map.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other question? Does Tableau pick up multiple states? I noticed we have to exclude Canada. So very quickly, let me show you. If we click, let's look at the 10 unknown here. Let's edit it. Because we set our country to United States, that's why. If we change our country to Canada, you'll see that it has recognized all the provinces in Canada, right? And now it turns the United States ones to unrecognized. This is also still fixable. For example, if I say Alabama here, it would, if I enter a manual like it will recognize it, but Tableau recognizes states. Like even if you do, I think for Nigerian states, it does. Yeah, it does. Do we have any other question? We're 5 minutes over time. Tableau desktop or public? Okay, that has been answered. You have instances where coordinates were not generated. Well, I really cannot speak on that. It depends on the, maybe, I know it does for Nigeria, but Kolawole, hi, good to see you here. I'm not sure. Yeah, the spelling of the state has to be correct, ideally. Pascal, I think you're allowed to talk. Can you quickly ask your question so we can shut down the room?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the session. So I just wanted to clarify my question. It's actually multiple countries I'm asking about. So if I had like a global data set that needed to show some stuff in the US and some stuff in Canada as well, does Tableau have the capability for that?
Yes, it would. Again, this our data set that we're using is just the regular Superstore data set, right? But if you had, for example, if we had country here, is country in our data sets? Country or region, let's see, United States, Canada. I believe it does. But yeah, I don't know why it's not recognizing Canada right now, but I can check in and send some roundup email to see why it's not doing that. But typically it does. Like I've worked with data sets that have countries, as in that have multiple countries, right? And it recognizes them. Does that answer your question? Pascal?
Yeah, it does, if you can hear me.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Does Shola have another question? Does Oluwatosin have a question? Or can we lower your hand? Okay, all right. Thank you, everyone. Regarding like mapping and geographies, I believe that if your data set is done correctly, like your countries are labeled correctly, Tableau actually recognizes it. I can check quickly if I have a viz on my Tableau public. On my Tableau public what's that called? To see if I have something that answers that. If I do, I'll send it in the roundup email. But yeah, if your data is labeled correctly, it will. It will. Okay. So thank you all for